And when did you start getting really serious about whistling? Competitions, practicing? What age?
When I was in my early 20s. So I remember this very key moment. I went to Binghamton University, and I was coming out of a grocery store, and I was walking along whistling a Beethoven piano concerto, and there's a gentleman, a stranger, walking towards me, and just out of the blue he says, "Beethoven, second piano concerto. I like it." So at times like that, prior to that, I would think, well, I'm in my own world. I'm hearing Beethoven, and I'm whistling Beethoven, and I may be annoying people while I'm whistling, but in this case, at least, I was making someone else happy, and he actually figured out what I was whistling, and I thought, wow. So that was a real turning point in terms of how I felt, what I could do with this going forward. And then, as with a lot of things in life, it's, you put in the time and you have the motivation. There was this very key moment, another one of those special moments where I was in the Shenandoah National Park in 1992 with some friends, just hiking along, whistling, random tunes here and there, and a friend of a friend was there, and he had never met me, and he said, "Wow, you're a really good whistler. You should do something with that." And I said, "Wow, I've heard there's a competition, but I don't know much about it." And then the mutual friend said, "If it exists, I will find it." Now, of course, this is 1992, and so she went to this place called a library, and they had these things called books. And she went and found the National Whistlers Convention, which most people kind of shrug at or are like, "Oh my God, something like that actually exists." As my wife has called it for years, it is a subculture. There are not many serious whistlers in the world.
Is it a threat to the U.S. government, the subculture?
Not as much as Donald Trump is. That's a whole other story, though. And so I competed in that first competition, and it was an amazing experience because.
Well, take a step back.
I'm getting all excited here. Okay?
No, this is great. Take a step back. Take us, where is the annual convention? Do they rotate it every year? Where is it? And how many people compete and how many people come out to this convention?
It's in a little town called Lewisburg, North Carolina. And it's around 30 miles north of Raleigh. And most people, unless you are from that area, have never heard of it. But that is the whistling capital of the world, literally. So for more than 40 years, they have had a competition there, organized by this one man who just passed away at the end of last year. He was 90 years old, and he could not whistle, which was really an incredible thing. And so this little town was a mecca for serious whistlers. When I went that first year, since I was the whistler in my home, at my school, here in Washington, Chris is the whistler. Now, of course, but I never met any other really serious whistler until I went there, and that's when I really had to test my lips to see, how good was I actually. And so it was a little tentative at first. You pull up in this parking lot, and then you get towards the venue, and you hear sounds and whistling. And so on one hand, I'm really excited, and I'm thinking, wow, is that really good? Well, he's really good. Oh man, I got to watch out for him. And then what I found over time was that whistlers are really nice people, very friendly and encouraging, which is, it's kind of stereotypical, you might think, but sometimes you never know.
How many people are competing, and how many people turn out to watch?
Each year, there were around between 30 and 40 adults would compete, and then they have a teen division and a children's division as well. And it would attract, it was kind of the bell curve. And I address this in my book, where there were people there who didn't belong there, because there were no preliminaries. It's not like there are whistling competitions around the United States or globally. So somehow they slipped in. Then there's kind of the mushy middle, where they're better than the typical person on the street. Then there's this kind of level at the top where they're really good, and then there's the top 5 people in the world where they will just knock your socks off of how good they are at whistling. And then in terms of the number of people who would visit, it was usually a couple of hundred people. It was it really is a subculture, and it was a fascinating experience every year. I competed 9 times, and I was a judge twice, and it was like going home. It was a really amazing place to go to this little town and see my friends, and what's one really sweet thing about whistling is that it's not age determined. They were little kids, and they were 90-year-olds who would come and whistle, and I met some incredibly sweet, lovely people from all around the world. It was a fun time.
Amazing.